You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
IAM experts streamline your identity management with Strata. Integrate any identity service with non-standard apps, apply MFA without changing app code, and ensure always-on identity availability. Strata reduces stress, enhances operational control, and improves security. Avoid the headaches of app refactoring and legacy tech debt. Join industry leaders who trust Strata for their identity solutions. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, tell us your identity challenge, and get free AirPods Pro. Secure your enterprise's identity management today. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. And our thanks to Strata for being a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast. Brazil blocks access to Twitter. Transport for London has been hit with a cyber attack. Threat actors have poisoned Global Protect VPN software to deliver Wikiloader. Voldemort is a significant international cyber espionage campaign. Researchers uncover an SQL injection flaw with implications for airport security. 3 men plead guilty to running an MFA bypass service. The FTC has filed a complaint against security camera firm Verkada. CBiz Benefits and Insurance Services disclosed a data breach affecting nearly 36,000. The cybersecurity implications of a second Trump term. On our Industry Insights segment, our guest is Caroline Wong, Chief Strategy Officer at Cobalt, discussing application security and artificial intelligence. And a Washington startup claims to revolutionize political lobbying with AI. It's Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thank you all for joining us. It is great to have you here today. Brazil has blocked access to social platform Twitter, after the company repeatedly failed to comply with court orders aimed at curbing disinformation campaigns. The government demands that Twitter appoint a legal representative in Brazil and pay a fine of about $3.2 million before lifting the ban. Brazil's Supreme Court unanimously upheld the suspension, emphasizing that freedom of expression comes with responsibilities. The court ordered internet service providers to block access to Twitter within 5 days and warned that using VPNs to bypass the ban could result in fines and legal consequences. The crackdown is part of a broader investigation into disinformation efforts linked to supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Twitter, led by Elon Musk, has resisted complying with the orders, drawing criticism from Brazilian officials who argue that all businesses must adhere to the country's laws, regardless of their global stature. Transport for London, TfL, the agency overseeing London's transport network, has been hit by a cyber attack, affecting its back-office systems. While TfL stated there's no evidence of customer data being compromised or service disruptions, staff have been advised to work from home. Immediate actions have been taken to secure systems. The National Cybersecurity Center is collaborating with TfL and law enforcement to assess the impact. Hackers have been targeting VPNs like Global Protect to inject malware and steal sensitive data, compromising private networks without detection. Cybersecurity researchers at Palo Alto Networks discovered that threat actors have poisoned Global Protect VPN software to deliver Wikiloader, a sophisticated malware loader. Active since late 2022, Wikiloader primarily spreads via phishing, but recently shifted to SEO poisoning, leading users to fake installer pages. The malware uses complex evasion techniques, including DLL sideloading and shellcode decryption, making detection difficult. Wikiloader's operators utilize compromised WordPress sites and MQTT brokers for command and control. The malware creates persistence through scheduled tasks and hides in over 400 files within a malicious archive. Mitigations include enhancing SEO poisoning detection, robust endpoint protection, and application whitelisting. Security researchers at Proofpoint have uncovered a significant international cyber espionage campaign affecting over 70 organizations across 18 sectors. Insurance companies are among the most targeted, along with aerospace, transportation, and universities. Beginning on August 5th of this year, the campaign has sent at least 20,000 phishing emails masquerading as local tax authorities in various languages. Victims are tricked into clicking malicious links, leading to the installation of the Voldemort backdoor via DLL sideloading with a legitimate Cisco WebEx executable. Voldemort, a custom backdoor, gathers information and can deploy additional payloads, with Cobalt Strike likely among them. Uniquely, this malware uses Google Sheets for command and control, data exfiltration, and command execution. Proofpoint has not attributed the campaign to any specific group, noting its mix of sophisticated and basic techniques, suggesting a complex and unusual threat actor. Security researchers Ian Carroll and Sam Curry uncovered a significant vulnerability in FlyCAS, a third-party service managing the known crew member and cockpit access security system programs, which are used to bypass security screenings for airline employees. The vulnerability, an SQL injection flaw, allowed unauthorized individuals to log in as administrators, manipulate employee data, and potentially bypass airport security. The researchers successfully exploited this flaw to create a fictitious account with full access privileges. After discovering the issue, they notified the Department of Homeland Security, leading to the system being disconnected and the vulnerability fixed. However, the TSA downplayed the vulnerability's impact and quietly removed conflicting information from their website. Additionally, FlyCAS suffered a ransomware attack in February of 2024, raising additional security concerns about the system's integrity. 3 men have pleaded guilty in the UK to running a website, otp.agency, that enabled criminals to bypass banking anti-fraud measures, leading to significant financial losses. The site charged criminals subscription fees to access services that bypassed multi-factor authentication on major banking platforms. An elite package allowed access to Visa and MasterCard verification sites, facilitating extensive fraud. The National Crime Agency shut down the site in 2021 after uncovering the scheme, which may have earned up to £7.9 million. Sentencing is set for November. The FTC has filed a complaint against security camera firm Verkada for inadequate security practices, which allowed a hacker to access customers' cameras, including in sensitive locations like psychiatric hospitals. According to the complaint, Verkada failed to implement proper data protection and encryption, leading to breaches, including a 2021 incident where up to 150,000 cameras were compromised. Verkada has agreed to a $2.95 million settlement with the FTC, which includes implementing better security measures and addressing email marketing violations under the CAN-SPAM Act. CBiz Benefits and Insurance Services disclosed a data breach affecting nearly 36,000 individuals after a hacker exploited a vulnerability in one of its web pages. The breach occurred between June 2nd and June 21st of this year, compromising client information including names, contact details, social security numbers, and health data. CBiz, a major U.S. professional services firm, discovered the breach on June 24th and has since notified impacted clients. Although there's no evidence of misuse, CBiz offers 2-year credit monitoring and identity theft protection to mitigate risks. In a featured article for Cyberscoop, senior reporter Tim Starks looks at the cybersecurity possibilities that could come with a presidential win for former President Trump. Despite previous turmoil during Donald Trump's presidency, a number of cybersecurity officials are reportedly prepared to rejoin or newly enlist if he wins a second term. Trump has begun assembling his transition team with potential cyber officials, including former Trump administration members like Pedro Allende, Nick Anderson, and Karen Evans. Although specifics are uncertain, some former officials believe that a second Trump administration would bring a more disciplined approach, with potential changes to key agencies like CISA. Project 2025, a policy blueprint for Trump's second term, suggests scaling back CISA's role, moving it to the Transportation Department, and focusing more on political appointees. Despite this, cybersecurity remains a priority for both Trump and his potential administration, with an emphasis on reducing regulations and addressing threats from China, AI, and quantum computing. The exact future of agencies like CISA under Trump remains uncertain, with possible changes but likely continuity in core functions. Coming up after the break on our Industry Insights segment, Caroline Wong, Chief Strategy Officer for Cobalt, discusses application security and artificial intelligence. Stay with us. Hey everybody, Dave here. Have you ever wondered where your personal information is lurking online? Like many of you, I was concerned about my data being sold by data brokers. So I decided to try Delete Me. I have to say, Delete Me is a game changer. Within days of signing up, they started removing my personal information from hundreds of data brokers. I finally have peace of mind knowing my data privacy is protected. Delete Me's team does all the work for you with detailed reports, so you know exactly what's been done. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and enter code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K. Caroline Wong is Chief Strategy Officer at Cobalt. In this sponsored Industry Insights segment, I sit down with her to discuss application security and artificial intelligence.
We're more than halfway through 2024, and I actually feel like every single month of this year, AI has looked like something different. I actually think we're at a stage right now where people are using AI. When it comes to software development, software developers are using AI. Now, I also think that we're at a stage where people are figuring out what can AI really do and what can't it do. And I think we're finding that, general numbers that I'm hearing is if you have a series of tasks and a human can be expected to perform 70 or 80% of those tasks, you give those same tasks over to an AI and you're going to get something in the maybe 10 to 25% range. So I think we're seeing people using AI to get incremental productivity increases. But I don't know that we're going to see dramatic shifts in productivity for another maybe 18 to 24 months. That's my perspective.
Let's talk about software development itself. I mean, for the folks who are deep into that process, how much is AI impacting the work that they do?
I think it's impacting developer work. And I think it's at this point almost more on sort of the entertainment side. I think it's fun for developers to play around with AI tools and test out if it's going to give them the results they want to. When developers are using autocomplete, when developers are writing comments for code and something like GitHub Copilot is suggesting what code to use, I think it's kind of fun, and developers like to play with these features to see what happens, and maybe something will come up that they didn't think about before. Certainly, the AI will suggest things that are incorrect, but I still consider it generally in that area of kind of fun and kind of experimental. The way that I've heard folks describe it when it comes to software development is if you've got a fairly junior software engineer, that person in combination with AI can maybe begin to look like a mid-level software engineer. But neither of those are yet approaching a senior software engineer. And certainly from a cybersecurity perspective, I think that a really interesting question is which code is more secure? The code that's written by an AI or the code that's written by a human?
Well, let's dig into that. I mean, what's the reality there? I think about stuff generated by AI and then comparing that to, let's say, something else that came from an outside source, and I'm putting that in air quotes, something that's open source, or, something that wasn't custom coded by a human inside your organization. Is it fair to compare and contrast those two things?
I think the tricky bit here is actually that the state of things in 2024 is that the vast majority of human written code is actually extremely vulnerable to security problems. And that's kind of, almost the joke or the trick in this question. I think that if you were to somehow be able to ensure that the large language model, the data set that an AI that's helping to produce code is filled with secure coding patterns only, then you might actually get something better. But at this point in time, I really believe that, while folks are leveraging AI and should continue to do so, it does require that manual check at some point in time by a human. I don't think we're at a point where we can give over any of our critical business processes. Just like you said, there's an awful lot that an intern can help out with, but you're not gonna give them over the entire task of running the whole business. Similarly, when it comes to software development, there are little things here and there that are going to help out. But I think we're really talking at the stages of, kind of typo and grammar corrections rather than making something entirely out of nothing.
Well, what about security controls themselves for folks who are heading down this pathway? They're exploring AI and they can see some of the benefits it'll bring their business. What sort of things should the cybersecurity practitioners be thinking about when it comes to provisioning those types of security controls?
So I think the number one thing is security teams really need to impress upon their folks that when employees are putting data into public LLMs, asking questions in public AI systems, that's sensitive data exposure. None of us need our development teams to be going and putting big chunks of our code base into any sort of public facing LLM. So first things first, folks need to help help their developers, help their employees understand that public LLMs are not in any sense private. There's no data protection that's guaranteed. And as soon as you take any piece of information, whether that's sensitive or confidential or code base or secrets or otherwise, you put that into Chat GPT, and that information is therefore out in the public. That is sensitive data exposure. That's really the number one thing. And so at Cobalt, for example, what we've done is we have a policy that says, hey, we really want folks to be using AI in their daily work. And here's our private instance that you should be using to ensure that you're not, you know, accidentally releasing any sensitive or confidential data out publicly. Beyond that, I mentioned AI system inventory and ownership. I mentioned human in the loop, manual review. I also think that something that's totally critical is logging and monitoring of AI activities so that there is a record. Stuff happens. And when stuff happens that we don't expect or we don't like, it is very helpful to go back and say, okay, when was the output that caused this problem generated? What was the prompt? Who is the individual? What did they say? What was the output? And just being able to track that information is going to be really helpful. I think what's challenging for some folks about this AI world that we live in is that the systems are, in some cases, very much a black box. You put information in, you get information out. Who knows exactly how that's in there? Organizations are having different levels of transparency about helping that out. But I do think now is the time for organizations to begin thinking about proper monitoring and logging.
Can we dig into some of the specific sorts of problems that you've seen along the way?
So the number one here that I think is fascinating is this concept of hallucinations when it comes to generative AI. Because the key concept between generative AI and, I guess you could call it non-generative AI, is it's based on data and probabilities. The AI system is proposing and guessing and imagining, if you will, the next response. And while I don't exactly categorize that as a security concern per se, I do think that it's important for folks to really understand that what you're getting out of a generative AI system is not fact. It is not the truth. It is not correct. It is simply a response determined by data and probabilities. Now, when we get into some of these security problems, at Cobalt, we've done manual penetration tests on AI and LLM systems. And the most common vulnerability types that we've found include prompt injection, model denial of service, and prompt leaking or sensitive information disclosure. Now, these three are in the top 10 for LLMs, as described by OWASP. And it is fascinating, actually, to see that these problems are being found in the wild. I'd say that folks who are using AI, they really do need to conduct security testing on these systems, and the skills required to appropriately test these systems is actually quite specialized. Folks need to have an understanding of the architecture of these systems and how they work in order to properly test them for security problems.
That's Caroline Wong from Cobalt. To learn more, check out the link in our show notes. Strata is your solution for securing on-prem and cloud apps without the hassle of refactoring. Modernize legacy systems with MFA or passwordless authentication and ensure continuous identity availability across multi-cloud environments. Say goodbye to tech debt and hello to seamless integration. Strata helps you reduce stress and gain control over your identity architecture, enhancing security and efficiency. Join industry leaders like 3M, Navy Federal, and Kroger who trust Strata for their identity needs. Visit strata.io/cyberwire to share your biggest identity challenge and receive a complimentary pair of AirPods Pro. Don't miss out. Transform your identity management today at strata.io/cyberwire. And our thanks to Strata for being a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast. And finally, our unbridled AI enthusiasm desk pointed us to an exposé from Politico. In it, they describe Lobbymatic, a Washington startup claiming to revolutionize political lobbying with, wait for it, AI. Politico reveals the firm is actually run by Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman, infamous far-right conspiracy theorists and convicted felons. The duo, operating under the aliases Jay Klein and Bill Sanders, have used the AI buzzword to lure big-name clients like Toyota, all while hiding their true identities. Former employees discovered the truth after noticing suspicious behavior, including fake personas and questionable business practices. The company touts AI as a game changer, but it seems more like a smokescreen for a dubious operation, with Wohl and Berkman using it to exploit public enthusiasm for AI and potentially mislead clients. Their history of spreading misinformation and staging fake events raises concerns that Lobbymatic could be yet another vehicle for deceit, using AI as a cover. One former employee summed it up, stating, "If I knew who they were, I wouldn't have touched it with a 10-foot pole." Who knows? Maybe in this case, AI really stands for artificial identities. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. Don't forget to check out the Grumpy Old Geeks podcast, where I contribute to a regular segment on Jason and Brian's show every week. You can find Grumpy Old Geeks where all the fine podcasts are listed. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Simone Petrella is our president, Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.